what good paperwork actually looks like. Now, good paperwork doesn't have to impress you, it has to reassure you. And today, we're breaking down what real car paperwork actually looks like. Welcome back to Cheap Thrills, cheap cars, cheap stories, and this is buyer beware. Because loads of handwritten stamps in a service book don't equal care, but consistency does. So here's the scenario. You asked to see the paperwork and you handed a thick folder. There's receipts everywhere, there's stamps everywhere, nothing is in order, and you're supposed to be impressed. But good paperwork isn't about quantity, and paperwork is important. And I quite often think, well, why does paperwork matter? It looks all right, it's nice and clean, it seems to run fine, but the paperwork tells you three things. It tells you how the car was treated, how the owners have been thinking, and how honest the deal is. It's all part of the big selection of buying a vehicle. And bad paperwork creates noise, whereas good paperwork creates confidence. What good paperwork actually looks like? Well, here's the checklist. Service history that matches the mileage. Invoices with dates, mileage, and registration. Big jobs documented. Timing belts, clutch, gearbox, all those big jobs that need to be done. MOTs that tell a story. And one clear owner narrative. So, the story of the buyer. And if you can do that, you should be able to follow the car's life and know how it's been treated. Now, as the vehicles kind of gain in age and mileage, it can be quite hard to keep track of all this information. But the best cars, without a shadow of a doubt, are the ones which have been looked after. And no one minds a car with no service history that's a bit iffy, but it has to be cheap. It has to be within the realms of your happiness to fix it. And if that works for you, brilliant. But what you don't want to be doing is paying high amounts of money, top dollar, for cars which are just wolves in sheep's clothing. So we know what good paperwork looks like, but what does bad paperwork look like? Well, random receipts with no context, missing years. My personal favourite, same handwriting for the last 5 years in the service book. Same location, same colour pen, exactly the same location on the page as well. It's quite clearly been written in the last 20 minutes. They've lost the book, but it's still been serviced, and stories instead of documents. You put these things together and you're talking about potentially a lot of trouble. And when people say, every time I buy a car, it all goes horribly wrong, that's potentially because they're buying a car that's not been looked after. Most vehicles that have been looked after and loved and cared for will be in a better state than those that have had loads of people that just don't care. Now, I think the golden rule is that the better the car has been looked after, the better the car is. Now, also, I think there is a bit of opportunity here where a car that has lots of service history and has been very well looked after, even though it might be slightly higher mileage, could be a potential massive bargain, because you could be buying a vehicle that has had so much money thrown at it that it is potentially like Trigger's broom. I once had a 911 that had 144,000 miles and it had £32,000 worth of service history. And somebody, because they were so boring, had put every piece of service history, every piece of paperwork in a massive spreadsheet and done it by mileage and year. Every single year. So it meant that I could buy a 911 with a rebuilt engine with 144,000 miles on it for £13,000. And not just a 911, a 911 Targa. I mean, what an incredible deal. And the car was mint. All because it had been well looked after. So what's the Cheap Thrills rule here? Well, I think the Cheap Thrills rule is the paperwork should answer questions and not create them. I also think that by answering questions and understanding the vehicle more, it puts you in a much better position, not only from a maintenance perspective and a repairs perspective, but also from a financial perspective. Hear me out. We all think a low mileage car is better than a high mileage car. That's a fact, that's a given. I don't think that at all. I think a vehicle that has been properly maintained and has had work that needs to be done already done and well documented for cheaper than a lower mileage car that needs the same amount of work is a better option. Now, I appreciate that goes against the grain of almost any single person that buys a car nowadays. We think it needs to be new, it needs to have the newest spec on it, and it needs to have, more importantly, lower mileage. Because lower mileage suggests that it's not been driven that much, and therefore it's in better condition. But then I suppose it all comes down to what toys you want to play with. Because if you buy the car with slightly higher mileage, that's already had the work done to it, you've saved money buying it. And you've saved money doing the work. but it has slightly higher mileage. But what you've effectively done is create a pool of money to then spend on more toys, which is what it's all about. So, if the paperwork is weak, you've effectively got 3 choices. You 1, walk away. You 2, negotiate hard. Or you 3, budget for the worst case. Now, I think most people out there would sort of merge their way in between all of those 3 things, but never assume. I would say that don't assume that something has been done if you care about your pocket in the future. Personally, if it was me, I'd be negotiating hard and I'd budget the worst case. And if I don't get the outcome I want, I would walk away. And I think that's acceptable. But not everyone is going to do that. I think one of my favourite lines I've heard is, I've got loads of receipts, but just not the important ones. And let's be honest, they are the ones that actually matter. The receipt for the clutch, the receipt for the dual mass flywheel, the receipt for whatever it is that you need. And it's just not there. And I think that is a nightmare. So what's the best paperwork you've seen, or what's the worst? I mean, send it in, we'll break it down, we'll have a little look. I am Rob Hartman, and this has been Buyer Beware on Cheap Thrills. And remember, the car might be cheap, but the paperwork shouldn't feel risky.